This is going to be a 4-part video series where I'll give you probably around 60 different tips as to how to effectively level as a Feral Druid mainly. From level 1, everybody knows that you, as a Druid, you just start as essentially a caster Druid. You just cast Wrath as sort of like a balanced caster. At level 10, you get the Bear Form quest, and you unlock the Bear Form, which is sort of like a protection warrior in leveling. And Cat Form only unlocks at level 20. But Cat Form is amazing, so it's actually less effective as Bear Form, but it is more efficient. Cat Form is sort of like a rogue, whereas, as I said, Bear Form is a protection warrior. When taking down elites, I kid you not, since level 20 when you unlock Cat Form, until level 80 when you are doing the dailies, for instance, killing elites, Bear Form is extremely good. It's very slow to damage, but because your upkeep is so high with your extremely high health and armor, it is better to sometimes use Bear Form. So as I said, at level 20, going back to the main topic, I will go off side tangent quite a lot. At level 20 you get the sort of rogue Cat Form, but it is very simple at this point. You basically don't have anything except Claw, which is your Sinister Strike-like ability for Cat, Prowl, which is turning to stealth, and then Shred, which is a backstab. The only finisher you have is Rip, which means you bleed the targets, and it's not great for leveling, because something like the Eviscerate, like Ferocious Bite, is better for single targets that die really fast. Let's go back into just very simple things. You can eat and drink in forms. You don't have to swap out of Cat Form or Bear Form to eat, which saves you a lot of mana. And remember, you can eat and drink at the same time. You can turn invisible whilst eating Cat Form. This is pretty useful as well in highly dense areas when you are leveling. Did you know you can also bandage in Cat Form, or any form really? It's really funny because bandaging is probably more useful for Moonkin than the cats, because you don't have to use mana to heal yourself, and you already have so much unused mana as Cat Form, it doesn't matter as much. But as I said, in the early levels, level 20, level 30, when you're starting out, you will need to pick up you don't need to pick up first aid, but it really helps a lot to speed up your leveling. Let's talk about some Travel Form basics. You unlock Travel Form at level 16, it increases your movement speed by 40%, and it's pretty much useless, because at this point in Wrath of the Lich King you unlock your mount, which is a 60% movement speed increase. Much better for larger distances. At level 20, so at level 16 you have Travel Form, but at level 20 you already have your mount. Not to mention that you have a Cat Form talent that increases your movement speed by 30% quite early on. The only time you use Travel Form is, and by the way, in Cat Form you also have Dash as any Druid, which is a 100% movement speed increase at later levels. So the only time you ever use Travel Form is if you've already used your Cat Form Dash, you are in combat, something is chasing you, you don't want to fight it, and you want to get away. Travel Form is pretty useless. So let's talk about Druid, an excuse to pick up skinning and leatherworking. In my early days, I picked up skinning because it's the only anxiety-free profession, gathering profession. If you think about it, skinning is the only profession that gets better the more people are in the area, I guess, that don't have skinning. Unlike mining and herbalism, there is almost no competition for skinning resources, and it feels really good when someone just leaves a bunch of skinnable mobs on the ground for you to skin. Sounds really funny, but one of the reasons I started a druid was because I could finally pick up skinning as a useful profession. Skinning is obviously used for leatherworking. The great thing about leatherworking is that Maybe not once you get into your best in slot gathering shopping spree, but free raid bits and other items can be easily crafted if you're a leather worker, if you want to try out different druid specs. So you can craft some balance pieces if you want to try out balance as feral without even stepping foot inside a dungeon or a raid, or a healer. You can get healer items. Leatherworking it just makes the most sense for druid when you have all sorts of different specs to use leatherworking for. Going back to the abilities, Earth's Grasp is broken. So you have the immobilizing roots as druid. Well, you also have a buff that is, by the way, free of mana. It doesn't cost any mana. Earth's Grasp can be used every minute. That it places a buff on you, so when something attacks you, they just instantly get rooted. You don't have to cast anything. And you can use this buff in cat form without going out of cat form. So sometimes when I accidentally pulled like 3 or 4 mobs, or maybe it was a quest, if you think about it, you can Earth's Grasp 3 of those mobs and fight the 4th mob. But you can also just immobilizing roots a 4th mob and hibernate another beast. So you can fight like 6 mobs one by one, essentially, with Earth's Grasp. I said this before when we talked about movement speed, but Feral Swiftness is a must-have talent. Even if you don't think you'll need it, it's really good for moving between mobs in a like a humanoid camp or even against beasts. So here's an example talent tree for Feral before we pick up Furor on the restoration tree. So this is like level 60. A lot of YouTubers would disagree with my pick in the second row, the talent that increases your stealth level. I haven't had the chance to really test it, but it's super useful to the type of person or player I am. I can sneak around in caves, I can sneak around in camps without getting noticed, I can sneak around without pulling like 4 mobs. I can effectively sneak into even like elite areas to complete some group quests solo. I don't really understand why people don't pick up this talent, to be honest. Not to mention it also increases your swipe damage once you eventually get it at the end of your journey.